Hi Reddit, this is Grant Imahara, one of the hosts of Mythbusters on the Discovery Channel, and this is my AMA, Ask Me Anything. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the amazing response. I'm told there are over 2,000 comments from the Reddit community, so thanks for your support and your interest. And I guess I've never done this before, so okay, here we go. Settle in, get comfortable. Um, okay, question number one. QTR while one, quarter while one, wants to know what's the biggest screw up you've had on Mythbusters? Well, we've screwed up plenty, believe me. The one that comes to mind is from a myth called it's called Sawdust Cannon, and I stumble on it because the thing that we did was actually sort of the step up from the original myth of Sawdust Cannon. And Sawdust Cannon, the original thing is there's a bunch of sawdust in a little cylinder, and you put a flare in there, and you use compressed air to fire it up, and it makes this huge fireball once the sawdust reaches the right stoichiometric ratio, just like a grain silo explosion. It goes up. And we did this, and it works, and we're like, oh, that's cool. But what we wanted to do was the next step up, so we thought, well, as we do on the show, what would be a bigger response? And so that would be something, as flammable as sawdust, creamer, non-dairy creamer, and we would use, instead of one flare, 5 flares, and we use a really big cylinder and a big air tank, and maybe we'll get something bigger. So we set the whole thing up and we fire it off, and first of all, we got a pallet of creamer, which I don't know who needs a pallet of creamer. I didn't know you could actually buy it by the pallet, but apparently you can. So anyway, we fire this thing off, and the initial thing that happens is actually nothing. It goes up, and it's a whoosh, and big cloud of creamer, non-dairy creamer, and we're like, and then about a second later, it erupts into this massive wall of flame. And the screw-up comes in because, really, we had no idea how big this thing was going to be. And because of the volume of creamer and the power of the air cannon, it didn't go way up into the air like the sawdust cannon did. It went sort of lower. And we had no idea what was going to happen here. But what happened was this low cloud of incredibly flammable non-dairy creamer has just caught fire, and now it's advancing toward us. And it is basically this wall of flame raining down little bits, tendrils of creamer that's on fire, and it's advancing towards us. And that was the point at which I was like, you know what, I feel like I am entirely too close to this. You know what, should I stand my ground? I mean, what am I going to do? And I turned to look for Tori and Carrie, and they're gone. They're like gone. Like, I don't know where they went. They're up the hill. So I'd call that, one of the bigger screw-ups. Fortunately, no one was hurt in that particular instant, but yeah, that was not very good. Okay, question number 2. This one comes from Drum Logan. Why don't you, Tori, and Carrie work on anything with Adam and the Walrus anymore? I don't think Jamie really likes that. You shouldn't call him that, at least to his face. Is it simply because Discovery found better ratings with the 2-team format? Or does Jamie secretly despise Tori? No, I don't think Jamie secretly despises Tori at all. The truth of the matter is it's a logistics problem. Now, we've got the 2 teams, Adam and Jamie, and then me and Tori and Carrie. And at any one time, we're each working on 2 to 3 different myths, just because if you run into a roadblock on one, you can leapfrog and start getting ahead on the next one, and so on and so forth. Once a location becomes available, or you have all the correct materials, or whatever. But when you want to do a really big myth that involves both teams, it essentially means both teams have to drop all of the things that they're doing on the sides and then come together. And it's just really tough to line up all of the schedules and make that work logistically. But I mean, the ones that we've done have been really good fun. But I don't know. It's really tough to do. It's really tough to pull off that kind of scheduling acrobatics. All right. Question number 3. Oh, and you know what? As far as the ratings go, wait, what did you say? Found better ratings with the 2-team format. I just don't think so. I don't know. I don't think there've been any major bump in ratings as a direct result of that. There's probably bumps as a result of other things, but I don't think that's one of them. Question number 3. Nine Castles asks, do you ever feel awkward doing the scripted conversations with each other to introduce myths? Awkward? Really? Really? You caught on they were scripted? Dang. They don't seem necessary, as the best quality of the show is that everyone has their own character. Yes, I agree. Other than that, love the show and long may it continue. You see, the thing is, there are certain parts of the show that need to be scripted. There are facts and figures. When we're introducing the myth, it's necessary to get that across to lay the groundwork for what we're going to do for the rest of the show, which is not scripted. So, in the past, that used to be done by the Myth Lady, long time ago, like first season ago. The Myth Lady, Dr. Heather. But then we just started introducing them ourselves. So, and by the way, Dr. Heather was scripted too. So they just thought, hey, why don't we, these guys, we're already paying these guys, why don't we have them read the script? But that's it. I mean, it is awkward because we're not used to being scripted. We're not good actors at all. I'm sure otherwise we'd be acting or something like that. But you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we do what we do, which is make stuff and test things and have fun. And that is what the essence of the show is. And so if the scripted parts look awkward because they're scripted, they are awkward because they're scripted. So, but sorry, that's just the way the show goes. And it's part of the show. We need to have that. And maybe hopefully in the future we'll get better at doing the scripted stuff. Okay, question number 4. We're just flying through these, aren't we? New Flues. Newfflews. New Flues. Thanks to the magic of editing. Sorry. I was getting ahead of myself there. Thanks to the magic of editing, it appears as though constructing a robot takes you about 5 seconds. Some of them do. Okay, no, they don't, but it looks that way, doesn't it? How long do they actually take, and is there one robot in particular you remember being a complete ass along the way? Yes, it does take a while to build a robot, and you know what? It just depends on the complexity of a robot. So, for example, I think the sword-swinging robot took about, maybe 5-6 days to build. Some of them, you do the initial build and then you have to make a lot of changes along the way. Some of them are roughed in within a day, but then there's a lot of finessing that has to go into it. Like the robot that had many moving parts, which simulates firing a gun for the Wanted myth, where it has to swing through. It has to swing a gun with a shoulder, with a wrist, and then fire the gun at the same point every time. So as you can imagine, something like that requires a lot of noodling to get the darn thing all tuned out and working properly. So basically the short answer is depends on the robot. Usually within the bounds of our show, we usually get about 10 days to execute a myth, and that's an entire story. So there's 3 acts, and that means all of our experiments, including the big final one, is 10 days. So usually it'll just be a couple days on a robot. Oh, was there one that was being a complete ass along the way? Yes, it's the dental floss robot, which I originally tried to make out of materials that you might be able to smuggle into prison. This was can dental floss over time cut prison bars because it has a slightly abrasive quality. And even throwing in toothpaste as well. But the original version of that robot, I attempted to make it out of like a motor from a tape recorder that I could have stolen from the library of the prison. I don't know how many libraries in prison still have tape recorders, cassette tapes. But anyway, that was the reasoning. I would use that motor and a couple other things and like make this dental floss this robot that would move the dental floss really quickly, like spin it up forward and then spin it up back and then spin it up forward, spin it up back. But that totally failed. Completely failed. Had to throw the darn thing out. And I was really frustrated by that. And if I'm really frustrated by something, there are two things. These are two tells if you ever see me do this. And one is I carry a lot of stress in my neck, so I end up I don't know if you can even hear that, but I sort of do that, and then the other tell is I throw it across the room, which I did with the dental floss robot. So that is the one that was really, it was for like a prison break episode or something. That one really pissed me off. Got it working in the end using other materials that could not be smuggled into a prison, but at that point I didn't care. Okay, great. Question number 5. Boney-Wan Kenobi, I see what you've done there, and you're very clever. Since you are the only person on Mythbusters with a formal scientific education, do you tend to approach problems differently from your fellow Mythbusters? And what Boney-Wan Kenobi is referring to is I have a degree in electrical engineering, whereas the rest of the cast has degrees in other non-scientific areas. And it's true. I think I do approach things from a more engineering perspective. Instead of jumping in with trying to figure things out either on paper or with popsicle sticks, a lot of times, I'll turn to CAD and just whip up something really quickly. I have a lot of experience with drawing things in CAD from working at Industrial Light and Magic, where one of the things I used to do was cut things on the laser cutter, which if you ever have access to a laser cutter, I highly recommend it. And basically, you draw something in CAD, whatever you can think of, whatever shape, 2D shape you want. You draw it in CAD, and then you send it to the laser. You put the acrylic in on the laser bed, and it cuts the whole thing out, and you could hold it apart in like minutes. It's like a Santa Claus machine. Anyway, so I'm really familiar with CAD. I can do things very quickly. And so usually I'll approach something from that perspective or have an idea that I'll sketch out on paper and try and figure things out that way. I think, my coworkers probably prefer a method where you go in and maybe gather some materials and try and figure it out. An example of this would be recently we did a myth called Master of the Flying Guillotine, which was based on this 1970s kung fu movie that, no, we don't have any of them in here. But anyway, long story short, Carrie had an idea, and she involved knives, and so she got the knives, just trying to figure that out. Tori went in and sketched something on, I think he tried it out in foam core, which is kind of like cardboard. So he cut out a little prototype first to see how well it cut, and he was trying that out, and then he cut it out of steel. And then I went directly into CAD to design this whole 3D model of a thing that had 5 blades and, that whole thing. But I think that's the fun thing about it, is that each of us has a different style of approaching a problem. And in a case like that, it's fun to see how everybody's different ideas, how everybody takes that idea and then makes it into, some real thing that we work with. So yeah, there you go. Also, I have a lot of textbooks from college, from engineering school. So sometimes I'll hit the books rather than the internet. But then there's the internet. And people ask us. I got this question just today, actually, from someone. Um, how do you do your research? Do you actually do you consult your engineering books, which I do on occasion? Do you go to the internet? Yes, I do. I've been known to look at various sources on the internet, but I think the single best thing for us is now that the show's been on the air, like people know about it, we can actually call people and say, "Hey, this is Grant from Mythbusters. I see that you're the world's expert on I don't know, laminar flow in whatever, and all these different areas of physics and biology and physiology and aeronautics. I mean, anybody, we can pretty much call anyone and talk to an expert. And I find that's the single best way to do your research, is to actually talk to people. And there's just something about the immediacy, the tangibility of that versus going around on the internet and looking for answers there. There you go. Okay. Jetmax25 wants to know how much of the show that we see is real footage, and how much is reenactments and producer-director created content. Well, like I said, we are not very good actors. However, we are fond of a certain type of reenactment, and that's usually something silly. And, for example, Star Trek Gorn Canon, which was a personal favorite of mine. I was campaigning for years to try and get that one on. It comes from Star Trek. I'm a big Star Trek science fiction fan. In Star Trek, Captain Kirk is deposited on a planet, and you guys you're Redditors. You probably already know this. All right, for other people who may be watching that don't know this genre, Captain Kirk, deposited on a planet, has to defeat a lizard-like creature called the Gorn by creating his own cannon using bamboo and chemicals that he finds and diamonds on this planet. And so, given these natural resources, he creates this cannon to kill the Gorn. And so, the reenactment comes in where we get to play these characters from Star Trek. Probably because we couldn't afford the stock footage, frankly. But really, I mean, it's just a great opportunity for us to have a little bit of fun, dress up in silly costumes, and put on wigs. And same thing happened with the speed bus jump. I was playing Keanu Reeves, and Tori was playing Sandra Bullock. So that's about as far as the reenactments go for us. What you see on the show, what you see us build. When something explodes, I mean, that all happens. And, if you miss it, if the cameraman misses it, and here's an example, on the cement truck, which, if you ask 9 out of 10 people, what is your favorite episode of Mythbusters? And certainly 10 out of 10, what's your favorite explosion? They'll say, oh, cement truck. So what happened on that? Why you do not see any high-speed footage, even though, that's a staple of our show, and you see it on almost every other thing that ever explodes. There'll be a sort of a gorgeous, luscious, high-speed, and you get to see. The reason that there's no high-speed footage there is that the high-speed cameraman actually missed the shot. There was, everybody else was about a mile away, and at a mile away, you feel it on your chest, like somebody, like a thump, like somebody hitting you on the chest. When the shockwave hits you, but the second cameraman was closer, and so the explosion was so intense that it sort of shocked him, and he missed pushing the button, which actually records the explosion. So anyway, no reenacting there. That was what really happened, and you know what? We rolled with it, and I think the results speak for themselves. Actually, my personal opinion is that that particular explosion benefits from not having high-speed footage, and part of what makes it so memorable is that 1 second the cement truck is there, and then the next second it's gone. It's that really shocking, like, sort of thing. So, anyway, but as far as reenactments, or I'm producer, director, creative content, I'm not exactly sure what that is. I mean, there are certain sequences that are animated, that help to explain what the myth is. That usually involve weird animations of us with our heads, talking or flying through the air. But those are very cartoony and very clearly something that is separate from the work that we do. And so what you see on the screen, that's the work that we do. Good, bad, and ugly. Okay. Next, number 7. Papaya Chunks would like to know, do you hang out with any of the cast outside of the show? If so, who are you closest to, and what do you enjoy getting together for? It's interesting because I have worked with Adam, Jamie, and Tori had worked with them for a number of years before I was ever on Mythbusters. And I had met Carrie actually before joining the show as well. But Tori and Adam and I worked at Industrial Light and Magic doing special effects. And I was there for 9 years. And I remember when Tori came to the shop, and I remember when Adam came to the shop. I think Tori joined on Starship Troopers, and Adam joined on the series of commercials called First Union. And we had been co-workers in the model shop making miniatures and spaceships and these incredible robots and sets and all these really cool things for a number of years. And in fact, the person that I worked most closely with over all those years was Tori. And usually we would be paired as a team because my specialty was electronics. So if anything lit up or moved, I was involved with it. And then Tori was a model maker, and he was incredibly fast, very good with his hands. And so, we would both be involved in the building of these models with very large crews. And by very large, I mean, say, 15 to 20 people, depending on the size and complexity of the model. But then after the model is built, it would have to be photographed for compositing into the movie, back when, before computer graphics was what it is today. So that meant either a period of time between weeks or months where you would be filming this model from all these different angles using a giant motion control crane that would, simulate a camera move all through the model, multiple passes. And so you can't just send the model out to stage and have it be good to go for the entire time. You need a support crew. And so Tori and I made the ideal support crew because I would handle all the lighting on the model and all the whatever electronics it might have, and then Tori would handle the painting and if something needed to be tweaked or if it needed a different look, he would handle all that. So, I mean, we spent months on a number of shows, on a number of Star Wars shows. If you look on the internet, you can find pictures of us, very young versions of us with the bags, the wrinkles, working on the Federation battleship, which is the giant toilet bowl with the ball in the middle. That's the one of the ones that we worked on, of which there are pictures at least. And we spent months working on Van Helsing on Dracula's castle. And somewhere out there, there's a very special edition of bonus features where you can see both of us getting interviewed in our pre-Mythbusters days. In fact, that was just before Tori left ILM to go and work on Mythbusters. But that was, we were the closest team. And then Jamie would hire me at night and on weekends to come and work for him because I was a radio control specialist, and he had a lot of puppets that would come through M5, and so he needed someone to step in right at the end, tune up the puppet, and make it like give it the final tweaks before it went to shooting. So he'd hire me to come in and moonlight for him. Who am I closest to? Oh, so the question is, do we hang out? Sometimes we do. We're all obviously different people, and some of us have families. So, it's not like you can always hang out after work and have a beer or something like that. But, occasionally we do. Who am I closest to? I have probably hung out the most with Jamie outside of work, just because, we both like robots. We are both robot enthusiasts, and we have that common language. And we used to compete, actually, on this fighting robot show called BattleBots. Jamie had a heavyweight robot, 220 pounds, and I had a middleweight, 120 pounds. No, we have never fought each other. He's got about 100 pounds on me, and so does his robot. Anyway. Sorry. Okay. I'll stop now. Okay. So yeah, Jamie and I would come over to, as his wife would say, play robots at his shop. Yeah, that was good times. We would also go scavenger hunting at various surplus shops here in the Bay Area. And Jamie actually had a whole circuit that he knew, where all the best surplus houses and all the best dumpsters were. And there was one place we used to go to called Triangle Machine. And the guy would see Jamie coming and say, oh, and Jamie was, well, how much for this valve? And the guy, Jamie, I think it's going to be, $20, come on, $20. Oh, I think it's only worth about, $8. He was a very shrewd businessman. And, Jamie, you're killing me! Come on, Jamie, come on. So, unfortunately, Triangle Machine went out of business, but I don't know where they went to. Wasn't because of us, I guarantee you. Okay, question number 8. Spontaneous Ham would like to know, favorite thing about the show that viewers don't get to see? We actually do have, we used to have more bloopers, which you can probably find online. They've leaked our blooper footage, but certainly my favorite thing is when we do have a goof reel. And I'm told that our production company puts together a reel at Christmas every year. So they do, it's purely for internal use. Nobody ever gets to see it, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But and some of it contains humor that is probably not appropriate for television. So, but those are, I think those are the funnest things that you don't get to see. That and Carrie, Tori, and I break into song on occasion. We have sung in the blueprint room if we're feeling especially punchy someday. But sorry, you probably won't get to see that either. Okay. Question number 9. Dr. Peer writes, in the episode where you tested out lie detectors, oh, here we go. You were asked if you had ever made a female robot for yourself, and you said no. But it came up as a lie. Yes, that's true. So have you. All right, so, just a clarification. Point of clarification. The question was, have you ever made or wanted to make a female robot? And here's the thing about lie detectors, and that is that they don't respond to the context of your question. They don't tell you, yes, you're lying per se. What they tell you is based on a number of factors like heart rate and galvanic skin response and other things that you are likely lying But the reason that you are likely lying is because you are flushed, or you're sweating more, or your heart rate goes up. So, you see, embarrassment can also be a false positive on the lie detector. And I think when Tori asked me that question, it was it took me by surprise. So anyway, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Look, it's ask me anything. It's not answer me anything. I tried to answer that one. All right, yes. I thought about making a female robot. No, I've never made one. So there. See, that's the weird part of the lie detector, is because there's two questions in one, and I was confused. And finally, question number 10. Damn you, Reddit. Question number 10. Rampant dissonancer. Rampant dissonancer. I got it. Wants to know, why was Jeff constructed with only one movable arm, a rotating neck, and moving jaw? Was that a resource issue or a comic decision? Okay, fair enough. What Rampant Dissonancer is referring to is Jeff Peterson, the robot skeleton sidekick that I built for the Craig Ferguson show, the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. And basically, it is a plastic anatomical skeleton with a moving jaw, a rotating head, a metal mohawk, and one arm that moves up and down. And originally, the idea was to have this character that would interact with Craig, and that it would be this sort of either remote controlled or something where you push a button and it answers automatically. And from my perspective, having worked on a lot of different puppets for movies on TV, famous ones you may have heard of, like R2-D2, Energizer Bunny, is that it requires a fairly skilled puppeteer to pull off more than, say, 2 or 3 moves. For example, to drive R2-D2 only requires one operator, and you can, under most circumstances. And I know that there are people out there who are R2 builder enthusiasts, and they want to build everything, like a million different things into their R2. And they spend a lot of time trying to cram a fire extinguisher, a lightsaber launcher, and like all these different things into this one little shell. But the truth of the matter is, for the movies, we swap out to swap in different things as the situation requires, so that you don't have to have your stun gun thing in there crowded in with your fire extinguisher and the lightsaber holder. And so when you're actually driving R2 for like a public appearance, you only need your right thumb to drive, move R2 around. Left thumb moves the little hollow eye. Index finger moves a slider that moves the head around. And that's pretty much it. So it's fairly easy to do, and that's enough for one person to control. In contrast, the Energizer Bunny requires 3 people to operate. One person works the head turn, and nod. A second person runs the arms and the stick twirling, and third person is the driver. And particularly with driving, and this is true of R2, you really need to concentrate when you are driving around, especially when you have people around you. Or in the case of the bunny, if you're precariously close to an edge, which in many occasions he was, like driving on a counter or a table or something like that. As far as Jeff Peterson goes, so moving the jaw is the thing that you as the operator have to concentrate on the most, and then turning the head and moving the arm is that's just icing on the cake. But your main job is flapping the jaw, and to have 2 arms, it becomes this whole thing where what do I do with the other arm? And then people have requested, well, can't you make him drive away from the podium? Of course, I like to say, no, that's for the protection of humanity, to make sure that I don't accidentally create Skynet. But really, that's, mostly it. It's about puppeteering and the ability to control Jeff in a meaningful way. And, secondarily, it worked out because there was enough space in the torso. It's actually a fairly small skeleton, but there was enough space to fit the servo for one shoulder and the neck in that chest cavity with direct drive without having to do any fancy gearing or belts or chains or anything like that. So it all worked out in the end. And the servos that you have to use to move this full-size human skeleton around are fairly beefy. They're Tonegawa SSPS 105s, as a matter of fact. The Cadillac of large-scale servos. But that's what Jeff uses, and they're big, and they have to fit inside of his little chest coat area so that he looks reasonably human scale and not like this sort of hunched over giant hulky robot skeleton sidekick. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you so much, Reddit, for all of your interest and support. Thank you to the whole community. And hey, watch our show Mythbusters on Discovery Channel Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Thanks. Oh, I didn't stop it, did I? How about that?